They say the devil's in the details, but in my case, the devil was in my wife's text messages. And boy, did she have a lot to say to Rick Dorsey at 2 in the morning. My name's Mason Kirby, and up until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had it pretty good. Decent job as an IT tech at Willow Falls General Hospital. 2 amazing daughters, and a wife who made twice my salary selling corporate insurance. We lived in one of those cookie-cutter subdivisions, where every house looks like it was designed by the same architect, having the same midlife crisis. You know the type: fake stone facades, oversized garages, and HOA fees that could fund a small country. The first crack in my perfect suburban paradise appeared on a Tuesday night. Amber was working late again, which had become her favorite hobby lately. I was helping our 11-year-old Molly with her math homework when she asked, "Dad, why does Mom smell like different cologne when she comes home from work?" Kids notice everything. It's like they have built-in bullshit detectors that adults lose somewhere between college and their first mortgage payment. "Maybe it's her new perfume," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew they tasted like lies. "No, Dad. It smells like the cologne that Mr. Dorsey wears. You know, Rick from down the street? The one with the big white truck? Range Rover, actually, but who's counting?" Rick Dorsey was our HOA vice president, a real estate agent who wore polo shirts like they were formal wear and had the kind of artificially white smile that screamed, "I peaked in high school but refused to admit it." He was married to Karen, a woman so cold she could freeze hell over just by walking through it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Amber slept beside me, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. She'd started sleeping with it recently, claiming her boss might call with urgent client issues. At 2 a.m. On weekends. Sure, Amber. Because insurance emergencies are totally a thing. The second crack appeared at the neighborhood barbecue last Saturday. I was manning the grill, flipping burgers, and trying to pretend I gave a damn about property values, when I overheard Amber's friends talking by the pool. "Amber's got a type," Jen whispered to Tara, both of them 3 drinks past subtle. "And that type is definitely not Mason. She deserves better," Tara added, glancing my way. "Someone more ambitious." I wanted to walk over and tell them that ambition doesn't keep you warm at night, but loyalty does. Instead, I kept flipping burgers and filed their comments away for future reference. In my line of work, you learn that information is power, and power is the only currency that matters when your world starts falling apart. The third crack, the one that turned into a full-blown earthquake, happened last Wednesday night. I was doing laundry, a chore Amber had mysteriously stopped helping with, when I found a phone in her jacket pocket. Not her regular iPhone with the cracked screen and Hello Kitty case that Molly had picked out. This was a cheap Android burner, the kind people use when they don't want their activities traced. My hands were shaking as I powered it on. No password, because apparently Amber thought I was too stupid or too trusting to go through her pockets. She was half right. The messages made my stomach drop into my shoes. "This last night. Same time tomorrow? Can't wait. Mason's working late shift. Oh, good. Bring that red thing I like. The lingerie? I thought you might. Oh, and then the piece de resistance. A selfie of Rick in what appeared to be a hotel bathrobe, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Which, in a way, I guess he had. I sat on the laundry room floor for 20 minutes, reading through months of messages. They'd been meeting at model homes Rick was showing, hotel rooms, and even our neighborhood pool house after hours. The details were graphic, disgusting, and unfortunately very specific. Amber had described things she'd never done with me, talked about Rick in ways that made my skin crawl, and worst of all, complained about our marriage like it was some kind of prison sentence she was serving. "Mason's so boring," one message read. "All he does is work and watch Netflix. You make me feel alive again." "Soon," Rick had replied. "Once you figure out the custody thing, we can be together for real." Custody thing. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my entire destruction. I forwarded every single message to my personal email, took screenshots, and then put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Amber came home an hour later, kissing my cheek like nothing had happened. "How was work?" I asked, testing her. "Exhausting," she lied smoothly. "Client meeting ran way over. I'm going to shower." As she headed upstairs, I noticed she was walking differently. Satisfied, content, like a cat who'd just caught the biggest mouse in the neighborhood. That night, I lay awake planning. Not revenge, not yet. Just planning how to protect my daughters and myself from the nuclear bomb that was about to go off in our lives. Because if there's one thing I learned from fixing computer systems all day, it's that every problem has a solution. You just have to be smart enough to find it, and patient enough to execute it perfectly. 3 days later, I was ready. I'd spent 72 hours documenting everything, printing screenshots, backing up files, and consulting with my cousin Jake, who happened to be a divorce attorney with a reputation for scorched earth tactics. "This is gold, Mace," Jake had said, reviewing the evidence. "She's basically handed you everything you need for full custody and a favorable settlement. The question is, what do you want to do with it?" What I wanted was my old life back. What I was going to get was something entirely different. I chose Sunday morning for the confrontation. Amber was in the kitchen making her famous blueberry pancakes, famous because they were the only things she could cook that didn't come from a box. Molly and Ivy were upstairs getting ready for church, which gave us privacy. "We need to talk," I said, setting the printed messages on the counter next to her mixing bowl. Amber glanced down, and I watched her face go through the 5 stages of grief in about 3 seconds. Denial came first. "What is this?" "Your other phone. The one you keep in your jacket pocket. The one with all the interesting conversations about red lingerie and hotel rooms." Anger was next. "You went through my things. How dare you? How dare I?" "Amber, you're planning to take my kids away so you can play house with Rick Dorsey. A man who, by the way, describes you as tighter than his wife in message number 47. Really romantic stuff." Bargaining followed quickly. "It's not what you think. We're just friends. It's emotional, not physical." I held up the selfie of Rick in the bathrobe. "This says otherwise." Unless hotel robes are the new friendship bracelet. Depression hit her like a truck. She slumped against the counter, tears starting to flow. "Mason, please, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You've gotten pretty good at explaining things lately, like how client meetings happen at the Marriott on 5th Street, or how insurance emergencies require red lingerie." Huh. Finally, acceptance. "Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Rick. Yes, we're sleeping together. But our marriage has been dead for years, Mason. You know it. I know it. We're just going through the motions." "Our marriage was fine until you decided to shop around for an upgrade." "Fine? Mason, when's the last time we went anywhere together? When's the last time we talked about anything other than the kids or bills? You come home, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed. That's not a marriage. That's a roommate situation. And your solution was to start screwing the HOA vice president?" "Rick makes me feel special. He listens to me. He wants to do things, go places. He has ambition. He has a wife, Amber, and kids. Or did you forget that part while you were feeling special?" She wiped her eyes with a dish towel. "Karen doesn't understand him. Their marriage is just as dead as ours." "Did Rick tell you that? Because I bet he tells all his side pieces the same thing." "You're not special, Amber. You're just convenient." That hit home. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. "I want you to pack a bag and get out, today. We'll figure out the rest through lawyers." "I'm not leaving my children." "Your children? When's the last time you helped with homework, or attended a school event, or did anything besides show up for dinner and disappear again?" Molly asked me why you smell like different cologne. Our 8-year-old daughter is more observant than I gave her credit for. "You can't keep me from my kids. Watch me." She left an hour later with a suitcase and her tail between her legs. I told the girls that Mommy needed some time to think about things, which was true enough. What I didn't tell them was that I was about to make sure Rick Dorsey got some thinking time too. I found him that evening, washing his Range Rover in his driveway like he didn't have a care in the world. Karen's BMW was gone, probably at her book club, which actually was a book club, unlike some people's fictional work meetings. "Rick," I called out as I walked across the street. He looked up, and I saw the exact moment recognition hit. His face went pale under his fake tan. "Mason, hey buddy, how's it going?" "Oh, it's going great. Just had an interesting conversation with my wife this morning. Turns out she's been having some interesting conversations of her own." He dropped the sponge. "Look, man, I can explain. You can explain how you've been screwing my wife in hotel rooms while planning to help her take my kids away? Please, I'm all ears." "It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I've got the text messages, Rick, all of them, including the ones where you two discussed the best times to meet up because Mason's too stupid to figure it out." He straightened up, trying to look intimidating. Rick was bigger than me, but he was also softer. Too many business lunches, and not enough real work. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my family. All of them. Or what? That's when I pulled out my phone and started recording. Or I show Karen everything. And I mean everything. Including the video you sent Amber last Tuesday. The one where you're doing that thing with the... Stop. He stepped forward, hands raised. Just stop. You threatening me, Rick? Because that would be really stupid. I've got nothing left to lose, and you've got everything. Nice house, successful business, reputation in the community. Be a shame if all that went away. He took another step forward, close enough that I could smell his expensive cologne, the same scent Molly had noticed on Amber. You need to back off, Mason. This is between me and Amber. Wrong answer. I'd come prepared. The bottle of barbecue sauce was in my back pocket. Sweet Baby Ray's, because if you're going to humiliate someone, you might as well use quality condiments. Rick never saw it coming. 1 second he was trying to intimidate me. The next he was dripping with sticky brown sauce from head to toe. What the hell? He wiped his face, flinging sauce everywhere. Now you're truly marinated in your own mess, I said, backing away before he could retaliate. Stay away from my family, Rick. This is your only warning. I walked back across the street as neighbors started coming out to see what the commotion was about. Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses down was already recording with her phone. By tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know that Rick Dorsey had been barbecue sauced by Mason Kirby. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And as I watched Rick standing in his driveway, covered in sauce and humiliation, I realized something important. Revenge tasted pretty sweet, even when it was tangy and slightly smoky. The barbecue sauce incident was just the opening shot in what would become the Great Willow Falls neighborhood war of 2024. By Monday morning, the video Mrs. Henderson had taken was making rounds on the community Facebook page, complete with crying laughing emojis and comments like best HOA meeting ever, and finally someone stood up to Rick. But I wasn't done, not even close. My first real weapon was Karen Dorsey herself. Rick's wife was a lot of things, cold, calculating, and mean as a rattlesnake. But she wasn't stupid. She knew her husband was cheating. She just hadn't known with whom. I fixed that problem Tuesday afternoon. I found Karen at Starbucks, hunched over her laptop like she was planning a hostile takeover. Which, in a way, she was about to be. Karen? It's Mason Kirby, from Maple Street. She looked up, her ice blue eyes taking in my hospital scrubs and tired face. Oh, hello, Mason. I heard about your incident with Rick. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Mind if I sit? She gestured to the empty chair across from her. I suppose we should clear the air. Karen, I'm going to be direct because I think you deserve the truth. Rick has been having an affair with my wife for the past 6 months. I watched her face carefully. No shock, no surprise, just a slight tightening around her eyes. I see. I have proof. Text messages, photos, hotel receipts, everything. And you're telling me this because? Because you deserve to know. And because I think we can help each other. Karen closed her laptop slowly. What kind of help? I slid a flash drive across the table. Everything's on there. Do with it what you think is best. She pocketed the drive without looking at it. Rick thinks he's clever. He's not. I've known about his affairs for years. Affairs, plural? Oh yes, Amber's just the latest. There was Jennifer Morrison last year, and before that, Sandra Walsh. Rick has a type, married women with something to lose. Then why stay married to him? Karen's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Because divorce is expensive, and revenge is priceless. Besides, I have my own interests to protect. Such as? Rick's real estate business is half mine. His reputation drives our income. But if that reputation gets destroyed the right way, at the right time, I can claim emotional distress and take him for everything he's worth. I was starting to understand why Rick was so miserable at home. Karen wasn't just cold. She was calculating in a way that made my simple barbecue sauce attack look like child's play. What do you need from me? I asked. Keep doing what you're doing. Make noise. Make him sloppy. Angry people make mistakes, and Rick's about to get very, very angry. She was right. By Wednesday, Rick was making mistakes left and right. It started when I hacked the HOA website, a simple job, since they used the same password for everything. Willow Falls 2024. I replaced Rick's professional headshot with a photo of a donkey wearing sunglasses and a vice president sash. Childish? Absolutely. Effective? The angry phone calls started within an hour. But my masterpiece came Thursday night. Rick had been leaving increasingly hostile voicemails on my phone, each one more threatening than the last. You're going to regret messing with me, Mason. I know where you work, where your kids go to school. This isn't over. The beauty of being an IT tech is that you learn all sorts of useful skills, like how to disable car alarms remotely, and where to buy 40 pounds of cat litter at 2 in the morning. I waited until Rick was at his Thursday night poker game, information courtesy of Karen, who was turning out to be a valuable ally. His Range Rover was parked in the driveway, gleaming white and obnoxiously clean. The car alarm was easy. A simple device you can order online for $20, designed to help people find their cars in parking lots. I'd modified it slightly to do the opposite. Instead of triggering the alarm, it disabled it. Getting into the car took about 30 seconds. Rick was the type of guy who hid his spare key in one of those fake magnetic rocks. I found it under the rear bumper, right where someone with no imagination would put it. 40 pounds of Fresh Step multi-cat litter fills a Range Rover interior quite nicely. Seats, floor, dashboard, cup holders, everywhere. I even opened the air vents and poured some in there for good measure. The smell would take weeks to get out, assuming he could even find all of it. I left a note on the dashboard. Hope you like the smell of defeat. Nen. Nen. Rick found his surprise around midnight. I know because his screaming woke up half the neighborhood. By Friday morning, there were pictures circulating on social media of Rick standing in his driveway at 1 a.m., scooping cat litter out of his car with a coffee mug. This is harassment, he'd called to complain. I'm calling the police. About what? I'd replied innocently. Someone littered in your car? That's terrible. You should probably check with the HOA about increasing neighborhood security. But the real victory came Friday afternoon, when Amber called. Mason, you need to stop this. Stop what? You know what. The website thing. Rick's car. Whatever you did to make Karen go crazy on Facebook. Nen. Ah yes, Karen's Facebook campaign. She'd been busy, posting cryptic messages about unfaithful husbands and home-wrecking hussies, with just enough detail to make it clear who she was talking about. The Willow Falls Gossip Network was eating it up. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. My boss called me into his office today. Apparently Karen's been spreading rumors about my unprofessional conduct. He's talking about transferring me to the Lubbock office. Nen. Lubbock. 4 hours away. Perfect. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to redecorate hotel rooms with Rick. This is affecting our children, Mason. Molly came home crying because kids at school are talking about their parents' divorce. Then maybe you should have considered the children before you started your extracurricular activities. I want to see them. Tonight. No, you can't keep me from my children. Watch me. You made your choice, Amber. You chose Rick over your family. Now you get to live with the consequences. She hung up, but I knew she wasn't done. Neither was Rick. Karen had been right. Angry people make mistakes. And Rick was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. I just had to be patient enough to let him. The annual Willow Falls pool party was scheduled for Saturday, and I had no intention of missing it. This was going to be my masterpiece, the social event where everyone who'd been whispering behind my back would get a front row seat to the truth. I spent Friday night preparing, with help from an unexpected source, Darnell Washington, my buddy from hospital security. Darnell was 6'4", built like a linebacker, and had a degree in computer science that he never used because, as he put it, security pays better and lets me read books all day. You sure about this, Mace? Darnell asked as we tested the equipment in my garage. This is some next-level petty revenge stuff. They started it, I said, adjusting the portable speaker system. I'm just finishing it. The plan was simple but effective. Rick's Range Rover, now professionally detailed but probably still smelling faintly of cat litter, would be getting towed from the community center parking lot for illegal parking. The towing would be live-streamed to the pool party's big-screen TV, which I'd volunteered to set up as part of my community service. But that was just the opening act. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, 85 degrees, and not a cloud in the sky. The whole neighborhood turned out, including Amber and Rick, who arrived together like they were making some kind of statement. Amber wore a new sundress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Rick sported a polo shirt, khaki shorts, and the kind of confidence that comes from thinking you've already won. They were about to learn otherwise. Mason, called out Janet Peterson, the HOA president. Thank you so much for handling the AV setup. The kids are going to love the movie later. My pleasure, I said, making final adjustments to the projection system. I've got some great entertainment planned. Amber and Rick had claimed a table near the pool, surrounded by Jen and Tara, Amber's enablers, along with a few other neighbors who were clearly Team Amber in the divorce proceedings. They kept glancing my way and whispering, probably planning their next move. I was planning mine too. At exactly 2 o'clock, I activated the first part of the plan. My phone buzzed with a text from the towing company. Package delivered. I walked over to the AV controls and switched the big screen from the kids' movie preview to the live feed I'd set up. Suddenly, 40-foot wide footage of Rick's Range Rover being hooked up to a tow truck filled the screen. What the hell? Rick jumped up from his chair, nearly knocking over his beer. The crowd turned to look at the screen, then at Rick, then back at the screen. Murmurs started spreading through the gathering. Attention everyone, I said into the wireless microphone. I hope you're enjoying the pool party. I know I am. Rick, looks like your car's being towed. Illegally parked, apparently. Just like your marriage. The crowd went dead silent. You could have heard a pool noodle drop. Rick's face turned red. You son of a... Language, Rick. There are children present. That's when I activated part 2 of the plan. The speakers crackled to life, and suddenly Amber's voice filled the air. Can't wait to see you tonight. Mason's working late shift. Then Rick's voice. Good. Bring that red thing I like. The lingerie. I thought you might. The crowd's reaction was immediate and spectacular. Gasps, nervous laughter, and the unmistakable sound of 40 people reaching for their phones to start recording. Amber went white as a sheet. Turn it off! But we're just getting to the good part, I said, as the audio continued with increasingly graphic details of their hotel encounters. Rick started moving toward me, but Darnell stepped into his path. I wouldn't, if I were you, Darnell said calmly. Lots of witnesses here. This is illegal, Amber shrieked. You can't record private conversations. Actually, I can, I replied. Texas is a one-party consent state, and since these messages were sent to phones registered under my family plan, I'm technically a party to the conversation. Amazing what you learn when you consult with a lawyer. The audio kept playing. 6 months of affair documentation, complete with Amber complaining about our marriage and Rick bragging about his conquests. The crowd was transfixed, like they were watching a car accident in slow motion. Karen Dorsey appeared at my elbow, holding a martini and wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face. This is better than cable, she said. Can you replay the part where he calls me frigid? Karen, Rick started. Shut up, Richard, Karen snapped. You're going to want to save your voice for the lawyers. The final piece of audio was the best or worst, depending on your perspective. It was Amber and Rick discussing their plan to get custody of my daughters so they could be a real family. Mason's too boring to fight for them, Amber's voice said through the speakers. He'll probably be relieved to have them off his hands. That's when the crowd turned. I watched faces change from shocked amusement to genuine anger. These were parents, and the idea of using children as pawns in an affair didn't sit well with anyone. Molly and Ivy weren't there. I'd arranged for them to spend the day with my sister, but plenty of their friends' parents were, and they were not happy with what they were hearing. You're sick, said Michelle Santos, whose daughter was in Molly's class. Using your kids like that. It's not what it sounds like, Amber tried to explain, but her voice was drowned out by the crowd's disapproval. Rick made one last desperate play. This is all taken out of context. Mason's trying to destroy my reputation. Your reputation? I laughed into the microphone. Rick, your reputation destroyed itself. I just provided the soundtrack. That's when Rick snapped. He charged at me, pushing past Darnell and grabbing for the microphone. But I was ready for him. As he reached for me, I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him straight into the pool. The splash was enormous, soaking half the nearby crowd and sending his phone, which he'd been clutching like a lifeline, to the bottom of the 8-foot deep end. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. Rick surfaced, sputtering and humiliated, his polo shirt clinging to his dad bod like a wet napkin. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced. Rick Dorsey, everyone. He's all wet, just like his promises. Amber was crying now, mascara running down her face in black streams. You're a monster, Mason. No, I said, looking directly at her. I'm just a man who got tired of being played for a fool. You wanted freedom, Amber. Congratulations. You're free from everything. Your marriage, your reputation, and pretty soon your job in Lubbock. She ran then, pushing through the crowd toward the parking lot. Rick hauled himself out of the pool and followed her, leaving wet footprints and the last shreds of his dignity behind. The crowd slowly dispersed, but not before dozens of people came up to shake my hand or pat me on the back. The general consensus seemed to be that Rick and Amber had gotten what they deserved. Karen lingered as I packed up the AV equipment. That was beautifully executed, she said. Rick's going to be furious. Good. Angry people make mistakes. Oh, he's going to make more than mistakes. He's going to make a complete fool of himself. And when he does, I'll be ready. She walked away, leaving me alone by the pool as the sun started to set. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. But I wasn't done yet. Rick and Amber had one more move to make, and I was going to be ready for them. Because the thing about revenge is that it's not really over until your enemies stop fighting back. And Rick Dorsey was definitely not done fighting. The call came at 11:30 Saturday night, 3 hours after the pool party disaster. I was sitting in my living room, nursing a beer and watching the social media fallout from the afternoon's events. The video of Rick falling into the pool had already been shared 200 times on the neighborhood Facebook page. Mason! Amber's voice was shaky, desperate. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please, I'm at the airport with the girls. My blood turned to ice. What? I picked them up from your sisters. They're with me now. We're going to stay with my parents in Dallas until this all blows over. I was already moving, grabbing my keys and wallet. Amber, if you take my daughters out of state, I will destroy you. You've already destroyed me. My job, my reputation, my life. It's all gone because of your little revenge fantasy. You destroyed your own life the minute you decided to cheat on me with Rick Dorsey. The girls need stability, Mason. They need to be away from all this drama you've created. I was in my car now, racing toward the airport. The drama I created. You're the one who, Terminal B, Gate 15. If you want to see your daughters again, you'll come alone and we'll work this out like adults. The line went dead. I called Darnell as I drove. I need backup at the airport. Amber's trying to take the girls. On my way, he said without hesitation. Don't do anything stupid until I get there. The airport was surprisingly busy for a Saturday night. I found Amber at Gate 15, sitting with Molly and Ivy, both of whom looked confused and scared. Amber had clearly been crying, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Daddy! Molly ran to me as soon as she saw me. Mom said we're going to visit Grandma and Grandpa, but I don't want to go. I have school on Monday. I know, sweetheart. I hugged both girls tight. You're not going anywhere. Amber stood up, clutching boarding passes. Yes, they are. I'm their mother, and I have every right to take them to see their grandparents. Not without a custody agreement, you don't. There is no custody agreement yet. Legally, I can take them anywhere I want. She was right, and we both knew it. But she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd told me where she was going and when. Amber, think about this. You take the girls to Dallas, and tomorrow I file for emergency custody based on parental kidnapping. How do you think that's going to look to a judge? Better than a father who publicly humiliates their mother at a neighborhood pool party. I publicly exposed the truth about their mother's affair. There's a difference. That's when Rick appeared, looking like he'd been through a blender. His hair was still damp from the pool, his clothes wrinkled, and he had the desperate look of a man watching his world collapse in real time. Mason, he tried to sound authoritative, but his voice cracked. You need to let Amber and the girls go. Rick, you need to go home to your wife and explain why there are 40 witnesses to your public humiliation. This is all your fault. My fault. I didn't make you sleep with my wife. I didn't make you plan to steal my children. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Airport security was starting to notice the commotion. A uniformed officer was walking our way, and I could see Darnell approaching from the other direction. Last chance, Amber, I said quietly. Come home with me and the girls, and we'll work this out through lawyers like civilized people. Or try to get on that plane and see what happens when I have you arrested for kidnapping. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. Jake's on speed dial. One call, and there'll be police here in 5 minutes with a court order. Your choice. Amber looked at Rick, who was sweating despite the airport air conditioning. No help there. He was too busy trying to figure out how to salvage his own situation. Mom? Ivy's small voice cut through the tension. I want to go home. I don't like it here. That broke something in Amber. She looked at our daughters, really looked at them, and seemed to realize what she was doing. Fine, she said, dropping the boarding passes. But this isn't over, Mason. Yes, it is. The airport security officer reached us just as Darnell arrived. Both men sized up the situation quickly. Everything okay here? The officer asked. Just a family disagreement, I said. We were leaving. Rick started to say something, but Darnell stepped closer to him. I don't think you want to make this worse, do you, Rick? Rick looked around, at the security officer, at Darnell, at the small crowd of travelers who were starting to stare, and made the smart choice for once. He walked away without another word. Amber gathered her purse and looked at me with something that might have been regret. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, and now we all have to live with the consequences. She knelt down and hugged Molly and Ivy. Mommy loves you both very much. I'll see you soon, okay? Are you coming home with us? Molly asked. Amber looked at me, then back at the girls. Not tonight, sweetheart, but soon. It was a lie, and we both knew it. After tonight, after the pool party, after everything that had happened, there was no going back. Our marriage was over, and everyone in Willow Falls knew it. But that was okay, because as I walked out of the airport with my daughters, I realized something important. I'd won. Not just the battle, but the war. Amber would get visitation rights eventually, but she'd never get custody, not after trying to flee the state with the kids. Rick's reputation was destroyed. His marriage was over, and his business would probably follow. And me? I had my daughters, my dignity, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the good guys really do win. 2 weeks later, I was grilling burgers in my backyard when Molly came running over. Dad, there's a moving truck at Mr. Rick's house. Hun. I looked across the street and smiled. Karen had worked fast. The divorce papers must have been served, and Rick was getting kicked out of his own house. Hun, that's nice, sweetheart. Go wash up for dinner. As I flipped the burgers, I saw Rick loading boxes into a U-Haul, looking defeated and broken. Our eyes met across the street, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the text messages, the hotel rooms, the plan to take my children away, and the feeling passed. Daddy? Ivy appeared at my elbow. Are you happy now? None. I looked down at my youngest daughter, with her serious eyes and paint-stained fingers from her art project. Yeah, kiddo, I'm happy now. And for the first time in months, I actually meant it. Rick finished loading his truck as the sun set behind the cookie-cutter houses of Willow Falls. He didn't look back as he drove away, and neither did I. And some stories don't have happy endings, but sometimes they have satisfying ones, and sometimes that's enough.